Refugee advocates in New Zealand and beyond are urging the new Labour government to bypass talks with Australia to resolve the escalating humanitarian crisis on Manus Island. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has offered to take 150 of the 400 refugees and asylum seekers who have barricaded themselves in an abandoned detention centre on Manus Island in Papua New Guinea. The men are living in squalor without power, sanitation facilities or medical treatment, but say they fear for their safety in PNG if they were to leave. 1 week ago, Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull refused New Zealand's offer, and the situation continues to deteriorate, with Amnesty International reporting 90 men are now sick. Ardern said she intended to press Turnbull to accept New Zealand's offer this week at their meeting in Manila, as direct talks with Australia were the fastest route to resolve the crisis. Timeline: the 21st of November 2012, Julia Gillard's Labour government reopens detention centre, not used since 2004, and the first 19 asylum seekers arrive from Christmas Island. The 19th of July 2013, new Labour Prime Minister Kevin Rudd announces people who seek asylum by boat will never be settled in Australia, with all sent to Manus or Nauru. The 17th of February 2014, 3 days of violence leaves 70 detainees seriously injured, with some shot by police, stabbed and with their throats slit. Iranian detainee Reza Barati is murdered after security guards inflict fatal head injuries during the riot. The 13th of December 2015, more than 500 men begin a 12-week hunger strike and protest against conditions on the island. To stitch their lips together, 3 swallow razor blades and collapsing strikers have to be forcibly removed by security. The 21st of July 2015, a Guardian investigation reveals widespread failings in the healthcare services provided by IHMS and detention centers, including Manus Island. The 27th of August 2015, a PNG woman employed by Transfield alleges she was raped by Australian colleagues inside the center. The alleged perpetrators are flown out of the country. The 26th of April 2016, Papua New Guinea Supreme Court rules the detention center is illegal and unconstitutional and must be closed. The 24th of December 2016, Sudanese refugee Faisal Ishaq Ahmed dies after 6 months of suffering numerous blackouts, falls and seizures inside the detention center. The 15th of May 2017, PNG immigration officials confirmed the center will close on the 31st of October, and tell detainees to consider their options. Over the following months, basic services are shut down around detainees, to encourage them to leave. The 14th of June 2017, the Australian government settles a class action, paying $70 million compensation to more than 2,000 detainees for illegal detention and mistreatment, but denies any liability. The 7th of August 2017, Iranian asylum seeker Hamd Shamsharapur is found dead, having taken his own life. His friends say they pleaded with the Australian government to provide treatment for his mental health problems. The 26th of September 2017, 25 men leave Papua New Guinea for the U.S. under a resettlement deal between Australia and the U.S. The total number to be transferred is still uncertain, with the U.S. under no obligation to take a set amount. Thank you for your feedback. We made the offer because we saw a great need. No matter what label you put on it, there is absolute need and there is harm being done, Ardern said at the weekend at the APEC summit in Vietnam. I see the human face of this and I see the need and the role New Zealand needs to play. I think it's clear that we don't see what's happening there as acceptable, that's why the offer's there. By Tuesday, the two leaders had not held formal talks on the issue. Papua New Guinea MP Charlie Benjamin told Radio New Zealand that the New Zealand government should bypass Australia and discuss its offer directly with the PNG government and the UN, a suggestion refugee advocates in New Zealand are also pushing for. Map Arif Swede from the Refugee Council for New Zealand said Ardern had the freedom to bypass the Australian government and a humanitarian obligation to do so. New Zealand is one of the signatories for the UN Refugee Convention, and if Australia does not accept New Zealand's offer, then New Zealand can and should go straight to PNG, said Swede. The situation is getting worse day by day on Manus Island. Before anything horrible happens, New Zealand has to intervene. Swede said New Zealand should also seriously consider offering asylum to all 600 men from Manus Island, as the men's welfare was in immediate jeopardy. Michelle Cox, the CEO of Asylum Seekers Support Trust in Auckland, said if Australia did not accept New Zealand's offer within the next few days, it was time for the government to press ahead regardless. We are a wealthy country, we can find that support if we really need to, and this is a crisis, so it would be good to see New Zealand step in and show its humanitarian colors. I think the NZ government has made all the right noises. It is a very quick test of whether they are prepared to put their money where their mouth is. I have hope that they will do more. Greens MP Golriz Ghahraman, herself a former refugee and human rights lawyer for the UN, said Australia appeared to be stalling over making a decision regarding the Manus refugees and was using delay tactics to wait for media attention to subside so the men could be forcibly removed from the facility. She joined calls for New Zealand to take the men. The indication from the Mangere Refugee Centre in Auckland is that they can take 150 to 194 in an ordinary intake, and they can take 250 with bunking. So they can take 250, we have the resources for that. Australian NGOs had offered to fly to New Zealand and provide wraparound services for Manus Island refugees, said Ghahraman, if New Zealand took the 600. Ghahraman said to the best of her knowledge the government was currently negotiating only with Australia, although the NZ Herald reported seeing Foreign Affairs Minister Winston Peters holding private talks with the Papua New Guinea Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, at the APEC summit. The best option obviously would be if Australia stops selling off its human rights obligations in the Pacific, closed the camps and just processed these people as refugees, as it has an obligation to do, said Ghahraman. The United Nations Refugee Agency on Tuesday urged Australia to accept New Zealand's offer to resettle 150 refugees. We urge Australia to reconsider this and take the offer, Nijit Lam, Deputy Regional Representative at the UNHCR said. New Zealand currently accepts 750 refugees every year, with the new Labour government pledging to double that number in the next 3 years. The New Zealand Red Cross, which helps process and integrate asylum seekers, said it was ready and prepared to accept the Manus Island refugees.